Welcome, everybody. I'm just going to wait a few seconds here to get everybody connected. We're really excited to have you with us today. If you're just joining, it would be great if you could let us know where you're joining from in the chat. We've had a lot of people sign up just from across the globe. Oh, great. Someone from Wales, Jenny from Wales. Hi, thank you for joining us. We got Elisa from Paris. Great. Yeah, from Thailand. Great. Yes. A very international crowd, which is great. All right, I think I will go ahead and get started. So welcome. Thank you again for joining us today. Let me just introduce myself really quickly. My name is April, and I'm head of marketing at StratX Simulations. And I'm here with Juliette, who is in charge of corporate learning at StratX. And today, our discussion is going to be about how to make new hires more operational, up to 2 times faster with simulation-based learning. So today's discussion, I hope, is going to be very useful. I know a lot of people who signed up are working in talent development, taking care of onboarding and so forth. So we hope this discussion will be helpful for you. Just a quick note, this is going to be an interactive session, so we'll be asking questions, and there will also be some time at the end where we can answer your questions. And also this will be recorded, and everybody who has signed up will be receiving the recording. Juliette, I'll pass it over to you.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you. I'm Juliette, so corporate learning lead at StratX for some times now. And yeah, the key idea would be was that for some times now we're working with corporation, different type of companies, using our simulation in onboarding program. So we know that it's something that works, and the idea was to communicate about this with all of you, and maybe give some keys, some tips to improve those onboarding programs you may have internally. Maybe we'll start. We prepared some questions at the very beginning for all of
Mhm.
you to understand a bit better the reason of you joining us.
So yeah, just a quick question since the subject is about onboarding. I'm sure a lot of you, that's a big issue. Well, or maybe you already have an onboarding program set in place. Maybe you don't. We're just curious to know, how long does it take for your new hires to really feel integrated in your team and also share your company's values? So I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll. If you could just answer that really quickly, that would be great. And again, if none of those answers really make sense for you, you can let us know in the chat. And then I'll share this in a minute or so. But I know like the timing can really depend on the size of the company, how the programs are really set. If there's a lot of investment in onboarding, there are many different factors that come into play. So, all right.
And yeah, the idea was to really understand what type of onboarding we have in here, and maybe have a better understanding on again what would be interesting for you to understand about also the session, and also have some insights because we're working with some companies, and again all companies are different.
Exactly. All right, so I'll just leave maybe 5 more seconds. I think we already have quite a few people who have participated. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share the poll so everyone can see the results. And it looks like, for the most part, it takes around 3 to 6 months. And I think that sounds about standard. I think a lot of our clients say that's around the same time for them on average. But I know that can really differ. And for some companies, it might take longer. And also, it's also making sure that you've chosen the right candidate. Have they been trained well? Are they a right fit? And it can be very costly for any organization if, those decisions haven't been really made well in advance. But yeah, thank you for sharing. It looks like there's, yeah, quite a few different answers there. So thank you for that.
I think now we'll give you just a little bit of a view on StratX and who we are. And so just to explain why we've done that session with you. The idea is like StratX exists for 40 years. We've been created in 1984 by Jean-Claude Delaharéchier, our CEO and founder. So he's been teacher at professor, sorry, at the INSEAD Institute for years, and this StratX has been built and founded based on research program with the INSEAD Institute. So the simulations are based in mathematics, and it's basically marketing programs. And so it's been 40 years that we've been working with the top business schools around the world. I think it's 75% of the top business school. And we're present in more than 80 countries around the world. So for years, we've been working with these academic sectors. And for sometimes now, we're also working with corporation using the simulation at different stage, in different department and for different use within the companies. So that's who we are, so you know. So let's be back a little bit more on onboarding because that's the reason why we're here today. And so usually when you talk about onboarding, the first thing that can come in mind is this welcoming process. So whenever you have new hires that comes in the company, you'll have to give them the laptop, the material, also the processes. When it comes to HR, you have to give all the documentation and have the documentation from the new hire and so on. But we know that onboarding is also a very strategic element of the hiring process in the company, because in that period, before you confirm the person, you'll have to analyze and get if that person, that new hire, will correspond to the job, to the mission that they will have to complete, and also if this new hire will integrate the team well. If he will integrate the team, that's really important also for the dynamic and so on. We all know that. So that's also very strategic for the hiring process. So that's also the reason why we wanted to discuss with you about that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of you are working in HR and L&D, and you are aware it's not just an HR issue, it's really a business issue overall. If the hiring process fails, then the business can really lose valuable time, and essentially in the end, really their value too. So again, I think
Mhm.
everyone's aware of how important the onboarding process can be.
Yeah, exactly, because we know that 30% of the new hires will leave within the first 90 days. So it's time consuming, as you said, April. And also a poor onboarding can lead to lower productivity and engagement because you have other manager that will spend time with the new hires, train them, transfer them the information, the processes, explain the business, spend time with them to know them and include them in their teams. So sometimes it can, if you have too much turnover because you can't really see at the very beginning if it works, then you can lose sometimes. And also from the new hire perspective, coming in a new company, it's sometimes difficult to prove your value and your competencies during the first month because you can be because if you're trying too fast and stuff without all the information, you can make mistakes, and we know sometimes making mistakes can impact the career and stuff. So the key idea is that if this person is not doesn't really feel integrated in the company enough, if they don't feel confident sometimes because they don't feel they have all the elements to really understand everything around the company, sometimes can take time for the people to really take action and show who they are and their value and integrate into the team. So also we wanted to have a little focus on this. I don't know if you know that already, this 10, 20, 70 elements. The thing is, like, when you learn something, because when you come in a new company, you will learn a lot of the processes and stuff. And so when you learn, 10% of what you learn come from the formal learning. So the formal learning here in a company can be, I learn about the processes in the company. I'm a salesperson. I have a sales playbook that I have to understand and so on. So that would be 10% of what I learn. Then 20% can come from the social interactions. So you learn from people. So you learn maybe from the manager that will transfer you some knowledge and so on about the company. And then 70% of what you learn come from the experiential learning. So it's basically the experience that you practice, you do something, you do some mistakes, then you learn and you usually don't do the mistakes again. Otherwise, it's not a problem. But yeah, so the idea is like 70% of what we learn come from the experience. So, and usually when it comes to onboarding, when you think about it, it's usually um, focusing on the 10 and the 20%, and you don't have the possibility really to work with the 70%. So that's a key element we really wanted to share with you today because it's also very important on the subject we're highlighting today.
Yeah, exactly. So, and again, I mean that 10 and 20% are still very important. And I think it's important to be able to integrate everything when you're thinking about onboarding. But one of the great things about when you're learning by doing or when you're using experiential learning is the impact can be so much higher compared to some of the more traditional methods. And there have actually been studies done, which maybe some of you are aware of, that show that experiential learning can actually be much more effective, especially from an onboarding standpoint. It can actually cut time to productivity in half. There have been studies that show that interactive onboarding can really accelerate, new hires. They can really get proficient, reducing that time by up to 33%. Not only that, but also stronger onboarding can really drive more contribution from these new hires, so up to 70% more productivity. And really, in the end, it's also the most effective method to really help with, having skills really become embedded, hands-on, on-the-job learning. It really outperforms the other like traditional, more passive methods that we already mentioned. And again, all of them really come into play. They all really work together really nicely, but it's really important to think about including the experiential element to your onboarding programs. And they really can make new hires really operational up to 2 times faster. And I think part of it too, there's so many elements in play, but one thing which maybe we touched on really quickly, and Juliette was talking about this idea of making mistakes. And everybody, I mean, even if you've been working at a company for over 10, 20 years, you never want to make a mistake, but it's really amplified when you start working at a new
Yeah,
organization. First of all, you're trying to prove yourself. And the last thing you want to do is maybe make a decision that's going to cause some sort of negative business impact to the company. And that's one of the great things about experiential learning is it's a risk-free environment. So you can go ahead, you can go in
definitely.
and make these decisions. You can learn from the mistakes that you make. But the great thing is there's really no business impact. So again, that's really one of the biggest added values to using that from an onboarding perspective. So.
So we're talking a lot about experiential learning, but maybe we could ask you also, maybe answer in the chat, have you ever tried experiential learning? So there's many other ways to say that, like business simulation, a serious game, business games. There's also war games and stuff. Have you ever used that in a learning program, or maybe in school, at your work, or not only in an onboarding program, of course, but have you ever tried it, or do you know what we could refer to?
Yes. So I went ahead. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Jenny, who has just mentioned in the chat that she has used games before. Okay, great. I went ahead and launched the poll too. If you feel free, if you want to answer in the chat or in the poll is great. It looks
Okay,
like
great.
we have a mix. So far, people are answering, which is good. So that's good. So it sounds like a few of you are already familiar, which makes sense.
Okay.
That is good.
And
Okay.
we have people that hasn't yet already used a
Mhm.
simulation or
Not yet. That's
experienced
okay.
this. Okay, so maybe for the people that doesn't really know what is exactly this element, I'll stop sharing my screen because I have to share with you also the audio because we'll show you a little video that will explain in 1 minute what is a simulation, a StratX simulation. And so I'll share my screen. It will mute me, and then we can discuss it again about it. So let me share again.
In many organizations, getting teams aligned on decisions is not always easy. A StratX business simulation helps by recreating a realistic business situation where decisions have a direct impact on results. It works much like a flight simulator where teams can test decisions, explore different strategies, and see the consequences, all in a safe, risk-free environment. Teams step into the role of running a fictional company and must make choices. For example, where to invest, how to position their offer, or which priorities to focus on. Each decision immediately affects performance. Results change, new situations emerge, and teams need to adjust. This creates a continuous cycle of deciding, seeing the impact, and adapting. Along the way, teams gain a better understanding of how the business works, align more easily on priorities, and develop a shared way of thinking. And because it's interactive and fast-paced, it's also highly engaging and genuinely enjoyable. Simply put, StratX Business Simulations empower teams to truly understand the business, adopt the right behaviors, and gain the confidence to make smarter decisions in their day-to-day roles.
So let me share again the screen, and then we're back. So yeah, the key idea with this is like you're using a tool that will recreate a business environment. So again, we'll discuss this a little bit later. You can adapt to really fit your own situation in your own company. But the thing is, like, you'll play a fictional company for a few years. You'll do some decision. You'll take some decision and build a strategy. This is something you can play individually to try to see if you have a strategic mindset and so on. There's many ways to understand and to focus on the outcome. Otherwise, you can also play in teams. And so this is a tool that we're using a lot in onboarding program. So to give you a better understanding, so again, with this tool, the idea is that for people, for the new hires to really understand the business dynamics very quickly. Because then you're taking the decision, so you'll see how the R&D will impact also the marketing strategy, and that will impact the sales and so on. So really understand the business dynamics. Also, I don't know if it's using for C-levels, for example, you can recreate the pressure because they have to take decisions every day under pressure and so on. So you can recreate this with some short time period to take the decisions and so on. So people are very engaged into this program. So it can be a half day, 3 days. It's there's many ways to use that. We'll discuss with you some use cases at the end of the session, of course, so you have a better understanding on concretely how it does it work. But the idea is that we can really it's very flexible. We can really adapt the way of using them. And of course, again, if you're playing this in teams, for example, then it's also giving some synergy into the team. It can really create a team, a better integration, I would say, to the team, because then the people are interacting. It's kind of a fun, but also very meaningful way to understand again the business and how it works, and meet also with the other colleagues, how they are taking their decisions and so on. So you have a real dynamic around the table online. We can also do it online.
Yeah, and like you were saying, Juliette, there's something really great. Like when you have a whole cohort of people who are just starting at a company, it really does create a sort of bonding between the new members. And again, it can really help also just with that feeling of the company culture as well. So yeah, it is a really great added value there.
And that's exactly what we see with our actual clients. And those simulations can also be adapted. So again, we have lots of simulation on shelf on different industries that we're already working with. So we have FMCG, we have durable goods, so computer, electronics and stuff. We have consumer services, pharmaceutical products and so on. So we have many ways, and we can still adapt the simulation to your own company. So either we can have a focus on the way of making the decision. Is it the decisions that need to be focused on the consumer centricity or the value creation? And those adaptation, if it's, for example, just the visual, so it's very specific to your design, your logo and stuff, it can take from 1 week to 2 months if you really want the simulation to reflect your reality. Usually for this adaptation, we usually start to work together with an on-shelf a simulation. But then later on, if you really feel that it works with your teams and your new hires and so on, and this is something that really match your with your teams, this is then later something that we can fully adapt based on what is important and based on your industry, market, way of decision making and stuff. This is the way that we've worked with most of our customers that use the customization. And we'll come through this because now we'll discuss the use cases. It's the best way to explain to you in concretely how does it work.
Maybe
So,
Juliet, oh, sorry to interrupt. I don't know
yeah.
if anyone wants to let us know what industry you're working in, just out of curiosity, and to see how,
All right. Yeah.
as Juliet mentioned, we have simulations for a various number of industries. So just out of curiosity, if anyone wants to share in the chat, that would be great. And Juliet, if you want to just continue with the use cases, then.
Yeah. Yeah, because here we'll have so we'll discuss a big leading electronics company. We can't mention them because we have a confidential contract with them, so I can't mention them. But what is really interesting is the way that we're working with them and how the relationship has been built around after years. And also we have another a little bit different. We have another use case about a leading cosmetic company that probably everyone knows. So starting with this electronic company, we're working with them for 8 years. So we started discussing directly the simulation for a small cohort in the company. The idea was to use a tool to really help new hires to get from juniors to operational very quickly. So they started to use that simulation into their program. So all the juniors that came into the company where they were trying were playing this simulation. So in this case, it's a different format that what we explained. So it's on 3 days in a row. It's a very intensive program that they really want all the new hires to participate to. And again, the point was to ensure the consistent capability across the regions because it's a worldwide company. They have lots of new hires. Again, this is a use case about a global company, but we're working also with smaller company, of course. And so with them, we're using this simulation. So we were using this simulation on shelf for about 2 years. And then our account manager have been discussing with them to customize the simulation to really fit their business, the reality of their business, because they really like the simulation. It worked really well on all these new juniors and new hires in the company. And so we started with few cohorts. And now for many years, we are having more than 15 to 20 cohort per year. So again, it's a 3-day training in person. So they have the possibility to do it in person. And it's very intensive and from 20 participants to 45 participants. And so again, the key idea is for the 3 days to play the simulation, understand the business dynamics about the company and how it works. And then when they leave the training, they have they know what what is the strategy of the company, and they have the same they harmonize their mindset, capabilities, and so on. So again, during the workshop, they have to build an executive strategy based on all the elements about their own company, understand the business, what is the what are the strategy, what are the products, what would be another strategy, and so on. So they have to manage budget, trade-off, react to competitors in real time. So they have also to take decisions around instantly, including some pressure and so on. And so, there's like hundreds of juniors onboarding each year within this company. And again, it's the outcomes we usually get from this client is that we have a faster transition from junior to professional, as we explained a little bit earlier, again, as they're experiencing it directly, involving emotions and ego also, because you're playing team against team in this training, they're playing team against teams. So as you evolve yourself really into playing it yourself, then they really have lots of learning from this experience. And again, then you have engagement, you have a better retention, and versus a traditional onboarding where they will have only the process like, hey, we're doing this year, and that's all. So here they're really practicing it, and of course, then you also have this faster integration into the company. So that's a use case we have with this company. If you have questions, don't hesitate to write some questions in the chat. We'll come back to this later. Here today, we really wanted to have the focus on this onboarding element because lately we had lots of discussion around onboarding. And but we have also many other applications on the simulations. We also use them as a hiring process as an assessment. We'll explain to you. We'll have a little other use case because we know that there's lots of talent acquisition, director managers, and also recruitment managers in the registrant. And so we can also use this simulation as a team building, a meaningful team building. Again, it can be also directly into company meetings or kickoffs, like a big sales kickoff we've done at beginning of the year in a scale-up company. And then we have another program about change management, a big group that bought a smaller group, and there were some integration element, communication that need to be solved. And of course, we have another way to use the simulation, but it's more for the L&D people. It's learning in action seminars where we're using the simulation into seminars when we are learning about soft skills like leadership, negotiation, or mostly or about circularity and stuff. So that's other application. But what would be interesting for you, that's the reason why we wanted to have a little highlight on this one, is this specific partnership we had with L'Oréal, the Strat Challenge. We've played it for years. I think it was 6 years in a row. And so the key idea with this was L'Oréal came with this idea that they wanted to play kind of a challenge into business schools to have new hires, to hire new juniors. And so we've created this simulation very specific again to L'Oréal, and we started the first year. I think it was with few high school, not high schools, few business schools around the world, and they were playing. They were asking some students to play the simulation, and the top performers were offering a job at L'Oréal. And so we started with, I think it was like 2,000 students, if I'm not mistaken. And at the end, we had like more than 15,000 students playing the simulation. And so for years, they hired that way, playing in different type of top business schools. So that's also another application. It can be used in your hiring process also to assess the person, see their strategic thinking. There's many ways, depending also on of course, on the profile you're hiring. If it's a C-level, again, a manager, and so on, then this can definitely also be a nice tool.
Yeah,
Maybe
and
you
these
have
are some
yeah.
great. Oh, sorry, Juliette, to interrupt. And if you have questions, yes, please, by all means, put it into the chat or the Q&A. And these are two examples that really show how our simulations can be used at scale. So really with large volumes of potential or new hires or potential hires, but this can also be scaled down. I mean, if you don't really have a need for thousands of people being onboarded, it can be scaled down as well. And also, it doesn't have to be, even though the team dynamic is really great when you have a cohort, like I mentioned before, it works really well. But if you want to do it where you're just doing individual onboarding or individual assessment, that works really well too. We do have a few cases, clients who do that. So again, it really can be adapted to your needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're working with smaller companies. Of course, this is the the biggest element, and we really thought that we would explain how globally it can work. But definitely, we are working with smaller companies where we have one or two cohorts during the years. Also, we're working with something to play individually into a learning platform, an online learning platform. This is something we started to discuss with another client. So there's many applications. The key idea today was really to give you some insight and give you some keys and some elements about that. If this is something again that would be interesting for you, don't hesitate to reach out, and we can definitely discuss how or you're working with your onboarding programs today, and if maybe sometimes it's just a little module in one afternoon, and this can change a little bit the dynamics, and it can support also for this process. So maybe we'll go through the Q&A. If you have some question, we would be happy to answer them.
Yes,
So you
please.
can put them in the chat.
Either in the Q&A or in the chat, and then yeah, sorry, I'm just gonna go through the chat. I know that Jenny also shared her industry, which is biodiesel manufacturing. So we do work with a lot of B2B companies as well. So that's certainly something in our wheelhouse. Okay, so if you have any questions, let us know.
If there's not, it means that we gave them all the information if they need.
And this discussion can also be done a little bit afterwards if you want to have a one-on-one with Juliette. She's more than capable to really talk to you about your specific onboarding needs. But okay, so it looks like we have a couple questions in the Q&A. So we have, what is the length of a StratX module in an onboarding company program? Can it be done on-site, online, or hybrid?
Yes, it's very flexible. So again, for this big global leader electronic company, they're using this a simulation pretty complex. So they prefer to use it around 3 days in person, but it can completely be played online. It can be also, so it starts usually from a half day. Shorter could be less meaningful. It would be less interesting, we guess. But yeah, from a half day to even like sometimes we're using it not only in onboarding, but we're using the simulation around programs. For example, in leadership, we have some partners that can use the simulation for multiple weeks in a row with a session only in the Friday afternoon, for example. So yeah, of course, it's very, very flexible based on what would be interesting for you. Is it global? Is it only for a site specifically? Like if it's for a specific location, we can have a focus on this, the location and so on.
Great. And then we have another question. Which simulation do you suggest for a successful onboarding?
We have many, again, we have like 12 simulation. So it would depend, I would say it would depend on how deep you want to go in the skills. For example, we have a company on onboarding. I mean, there's this company we're working with, they're only onboarding the marketers. So they're having a simulation about marketing, like that go deep in details in marketing. But otherwise, we have the pro simulation that are the shorter versions, because we know that not all the company can spend 3 days in a row in a training for a simulation. So we have a pro simulation like Brand Pro, for example, that is pretty general, where you can build a strategy, where you can manage your products and really understand the business dynamics. That we have also on many industries. And this simulation can be played from 3 hours to 6 hours. So usually it's a good fit when you have like a half day or only a day to provide for this module. Are they available in SCORM files in multiple language? So I'm so sorry. I'm not sure what is the SCORM files, but what I can say is that those simulations are in the platform. So it's basically you're connecting in, if you're the facilitator or the participant, you're connecting through our website. You will have your logins and stuff that are providing by the support. And then you could logging into the platform in your navigator. And then you can play the simulation. And yes, we have it in multiple languages. I think it's upload into an existing LMS. So that's something that we had in discussion with another of the clients earlier. We have to discuss it with our dev team, but from what I know, there's no really real issue integrating this to the LMS. I think that's just something we need to see what LMS you're using and stuff for the APIs, and but that's something we can not we should be able to definitely do. And multiple languages, again, Jenny, yeah, we have many languages. We have English, French, Spanish. It depends on the simulation, but that's something we're having. Great. Thank you
Great.
so
Are
much
there
for
any?
your questions.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if there are any other ones, but if not, then I guess maybe we can close this discussion. And first of all, we're
Mhm.
just really thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today to discuss this. And Juliet, as I mentioned before, is available after this webinar to discuss your specific onboarding needs. And of course, we will be sending out the recording if you want to refer back to our discussion, and also if you'd like the presentation. So yeah, again, thank you so much. And we hope that
Yeah,
this discussion was useful. And
yeah. We
we
hope
will see
this
you.
yeah helped a little bit based on what the reason you came. But yeah. Okay. Have a
Wonderful.
nice day, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.